They like to whisper that deserts bury what the rest of the world is not meant to witness. But I learned the hard way that some secrets claw their way back to the surface no matter how deeply they are buried. My name used to matter, used to open doors and close others. But the moment I stepped back onto Israeli soil after that mission, whatever identity I once had went up in flames along with the last traces of who I used to be. What I witnessed under the Iranian sands during the spring of 2019 still drags me out of sleep at exactly 3 in the morning, drenched, trembling, listening for sounds no living thing should ever make. You might wonder what horrors could unnerve a Mossad operative. Someone conditioned for the worst humanity can offer. Someone forged through blood, shadows, and unspoken nightmares. But here is something people never admit. Our training only prepares us for threats shaped like us. Guns, knives, torture cells, betrayal, those you can learn to withstand. What waits in the forgotten crevices of the earth, untouched by sunlight and unbound by human logic, has no place in any handbook. And if you think you recognize the path the story is taking, believe me, you are already lost. It began roughly 6 months before the infiltration, inside a steel-walled briefing room buried somewhere beneath Tel Aviv, the kind of place where clocks and windows do not exist because time is irrelevant in the absence of daylight. My commanding officer, let us call him Major Davidoff, slid a thick manila folder across the table without a word. Inside were stacks of satellite captures, each depicting the same barren stretch of land nearly 40 kilometers southwest of Natanz. Sand, rock, and a scattering of thorny plants clinging to life. Nothing unusual at first glance. What exactly am I supposed to be seeing? I asked as I sorted the images from oldest to newest. Davidoff leaned forward, and for the first time since I had known him, I saw something like hesitation in the lines around his eyes. Look at the thermal patterns from the past 3 years, he murmured, tapping one image. Tell me if anything stands out. I spread them across the metal surface under the cold fluorescent lights, and that was when I noticed it, a faint but undeniable heat source pulsing deep underground. It appeared and vanished unpredictably, sometimes flaring twice in a week, sometimes going silent for months, but it was always there, and its intensity was steadily climbing. Underground facility, I concluded. Nuclear? Chemical? Weapons research? That was our initial theory, he replied, retrieving a second folder marked at the highest classification. But intelligence assets in the region have been monitoring it for 18 months. 3 separate teams, all have reported anomalies. 3 separate teams, nighttime deliveries of strange machinery, personnel outfitted in full hazmat gear, odd patterns of movement, and inexplicable security protocols. Geological surveys insist there is nothing natural beneath that location, he added. No caverns, no tunnels, just pure bedrock. A chill crawled up my spine. Then, what the hell are they using? That is the question, he said quietly. We have 17 confirmed observations of individuals entering or leaving a concealed access point. Not a single one has been seen during daylight. His gaze locked with mine, and a shadow passed across his expression. Rosen, we need you inside. Standard reconnaissance. Enter, document, extract. Standard, he said, but nothing about this smelled standard, and the way he kept his eyes fixed on the table suggested he was painfully aware of that fact. The next 4 months disappeared in a haze of preparation. New identity, new habits, new history. I became Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a British archaeologist with a respected body of academic work tied to ancient Persian civilizations. It was a cover built meticulously over years of digital crafting by people whose names I will never know. British credentials opened doors in Tehran that no Israeli operative could cross without raising alarms. My partner for the mission was a man known publicly as my translator, privately as Agent Katz, a seasoned operative with the kind of steady temperament you want beside you when everything is going to hell. We entered Tehran separately, spent a week building legitimacy, speaking at lectures, attending cultural gatherings, shaking hands with professors and bureaucrats who believed we were exactly who our paperwork claimed. We drove out to the desert on a moonless Tuesday night, the temperature strangely cold for April. Our Land Cruiser rattled over rough dirt roads, and then over no roads at all, as we navigated by compass and memory alone. 2 kilometers out, Kat said quietly. Almost there. His voice was calm in that way trained operatives get when their instincts start chewing at them. I killed the headlights, slipping on night vision goggles, watching the desert shift into an eerie green dreamscape. Jagged stones cast long, unnatural shadows. A lone fox darted past us, disappearing into darkness. Then I saw something ahead, a shape too perfect, too geometric to be natural. We left the vehicle 500 meters away and approached on foot, moving like ghosts across the sand. Most of the structure was buried, but enough protruded to reveal reinforced Soviet-style concrete and a single steel door painted to mimic the rock around it. But what made my pulse spike wasn't the architecture. It was the door itself, wide open, as if expecting us. From the darkness inside came a faint, flickering glow, cold, bluish, almost breathing. "Rosen," Katz whispered, "something is wrong." He didn't need to say it. Every instinct in my body already knew. And yet, even then, we kept moving forward, because that was the mission, and because some secrets refused to stay buried. Katz leaned in close enough for me to feel the tension in his breath as he whispered, "This feels like a trap." I nodded, my voice barely audible as I answered, "Everything about this is wrong." But turning back now would have meant walking away from the very thing we had crossed the borders and identities to uncover. And that was not an option. Not for Mossad, not for the mission, and not for the truth buried beneath our feet. We advanced toward the gaping doorway in a tight formation, weapons raised, senses sharpened to a razor's edge. The steel door, nearly 2 feet thick, loomed over us like the entrance to a tomb. Its surface was plastered with warnings written in Farsi, phrases like biological hazard, restricted access, and level 5 clearance only. But someone had hastily sprayed over the official markings with crude, frantic strokes of red paint that dripped down the metal like blood. The message they left behind was simple and horrifying. "They are awake. God forgive us." Katz's breath caught, trembling slightly. "Rosen, we need to call this in right now." A part of me agreed. Every instinct screamed at me to retreat, to inform Tel Aviv, to let someone else step into the darkness yawning before us. But intelligence, this crucial, could not wait. Backup would take days. The window we had might never open again. "We go in," I said quietly. "We stay 30 minutes, document everything, then we extract. If we are not back at the vehicle in 45 minutes, you follow the protocol." We activated our helmet cameras and stepped through the door. Instantly, a cold wave washed over us, so sharp and unnatural that I inhaled sharply. The temperature shift was extreme enough that our breath fogged the air despite the warm desert night above. The corridor angled sharply downward, walls shifting from reinforced concrete to rough stone carved with markings that looked ancient, impossibly ancient. Katz ran his gloved hand along them. "Is this cuneiform?" he whispered. I stared at the symbols, my archaeological cover suddenly feeling less like an alias and more like a warning. "Akkadian," I murmured, "but older, much older. These markings should not exist here." The blue glow deepened as we descended, spiraling lower and lower, my mind automatically counting the steps, 347, which put us at least 50 meters beneath the surface. That depth alone was impossible according to geological maps. Then, the corridor opened into a massive subterranean chamber, so vast and precise it seemed carved by machines far beyond any ancient civilization, and perhaps even beyond modern engineering. But the true horror lay not in the architecture. It lay in the concentric rings of towering glass cylinders filling the cavern. At first glance, the creatures floating inside seemed vaguely human, until we moved closer. Katz whispered, oh God, Rosen." Their limbs were grotesquely elongated, joints twisted at angles that defied anatomy. Their skin was pale and translucent, stretched taut over sinewy frames. Their eyes were too large, too black, swallowing the dim light entirely. Their mouths were lined with needle-like teeth, predatory and unnatural. Worst of all, they were moving. Barely perceptible twitches of fingers, subtle shifts of their bodies within the thick amber-like fluid, but movement nonetheless. And every one of them was aware of us, tracking us through the glass with those bottomless eyes. "Rosen, what the hell is this?" Katz's voice trembled, stripped of every trace of professional calm. Before he could answer, the chamber exploded with sound. Harsh white light snapped on overhead, bathing the cavern in antiseptic brightness. An alarm blared, a deep metallic howl echoing through the stone, and then came the screaming. A chorus of shrieks from inside the cylinders, Dozens, maybe hundreds of voices wailing in unison, their mouths opening wide as the liquid churned around them. "They know we are here," I said, grabbing Katz's arm. "We need to move, now." We sprinted toward the corridor, but halfway up we heard footsteps pounding from above, multiple contacts, moving fast. Iranian forces, facility personnel, whoever they were converging on us. Katz grabbed my sleeve and yanked me into a narrow side passage I had not noticed before. We pressed ourselves into the shadows as a squad of soldiers stormed past, but these were not normal Revolutionary Guard. Their uniforms bore the same biohazard symbols as the entrance door, and they carried weapons that glowed with the same unnatural blue light illuminating the facility, technology I had never seen before. "Secondary exit," I whispered. "There has to be one." We pushed deeper into the passageway, following a thin trail of dried, dark blood smeared across the stone floor. Someone had fled through here recently and bleeding profusely. The corridor tightened, the walls closing around us so closely that our shoulders scraped stone. Behind us came a new sound, metal scraping against rock, steady and deliberate, echoing up the passage. Something was following us. "Faster," Katz hissed, swinging his weapon. "Faster," Katz hissed, swinging his weapon behind us, though both of us knew bullets might not matter. The blood trail grew fresher, still gleaming in patches, still tacky. Whatever had fled was either dead or close to it. The passage abruptly widened into another chamber. This one was crude, hastily carved, filled with makeshift medical equipment. The center held an examination table strapped with restraints, still slick with drying blood. On the ground beside it lay the corpse of an Iranian soldier, but not like any casualty I had seen before. His skin was gray and mottled, veins bulging black beneath the surface. His face was frozen in terror, mouth stretched in a silent scream, and along his neck were puncture marks, 4 of them, arranged in a pattern no human creature could have made. "They were experimenting on their own men," I said, raising my camera to record every detail. The scraping behind us grew louder, closer, too close. And for the first time since we entered the desert, I felt true fear, because I knew now that whatever was stalking us was not human, and it was not alone. The dead soldier on the floor should have been the climax of any nightmare, but I knew with a sickening certainty that he was only the beginning, the smallest hint of the horror this place was built to contain. And as I stood over him with my helmet camera recording every detail, every wound, every impossible mark on his flesh, the truth sharpened itself into a blade inside my mind. This was evidence, undeniable and catastrophic evidence, of a program far beyond anything Mossad had suspected. "Rosen," Katz said, his voice hollow as he sifted through a nearby terminal, still glowing faintly with pale green light. "You need to see this." I moved beside him, and the screen unfurled a series of files, documents in Farsi, some in English, others in languages I could not identify, but the images needed no translation. Test subjects strapped to tables just like the one behind us. Human volunteers at the beginning, soldiers, prisoners, dissidents, then unwilling participants, even children, each undergoing genetic alterations using biological material extracted from the creature sealed in those monstrous cylinders. Their DNA was being spliced, rewritten, twisted into something unrecognizable. "They call it rebirth protocol," Katz translated, his voice barely recognizable. "They have been experimenting for 12 years, trying to create enhanced soldiers." He scrolled further, and the horror deepened. But something went wrong. Around 4 years ago, the subjects started changing too much, losing their humanity, becoming them. The next file was labeled Containment Breach Level 7, and when I opened it, my blood nearly froze. Brainy security footage filled the screen, taken only 2 weeks earlier. The cavern we had explored spread across the monitor, except now half of the cylinders were shattered, their occupants gone, fluid spilling across the floor as shadows darted through the frame, shapes moving with predatory grace, tearing through personnel, dragging bodies away. "That is why the main entrance was open," I said quietly. "The facility was compromised. They evacuated whoever they could. They were trying to seal the rest inside." As if summoned by the realization, the scraping sound returned, now echoing through multiple corridors at once. And woven through it, a new sound, a terrible one, The choked, layered shrieks we had heard inside the cylinders, except clearer now, more coherent, as if the creatures were communicating in some ancient, forgotten tongue. "We need to move," Kat said sharply, grabbing the data drive from the terminal. "According to these schematics, there is an emergency elevator 200 meters ahead. It should take us to the surface about a kilometer from our vehicle." We ran, our footfalls echoing violently through the curving stone passages. Professional training meant nothing now. This wasn't reconnaissance, this was survival. Something massive entered the chamber behind us, and I risked a glance back. I wish I hadn't. One of the creatures, one of the ones we had seen floating in those amber tanks, crawled into the room, but it had changed. Hardened carapace covered its body, and its limbs moved with a terrifying, fluid precision. Its black eyes locked onto us, and then, impossibly, its mouth stretched into something like a smile, revealing needle teeth dripping with residual fluid. It screamed, a hunting call, and the sound was answered throughout the facility. Then it came after us. The passage ahead split into 3 narrow tunnels. Without hesitation, Cats veered left. Alarms were still wailing, the stale air vibrating with every pulse. We burst through a door marked with radiation warnings. Dangerous, yes, but far preferable to whatever was chasing us. This section looked older, much older. The concrete vanished, replaced by the same ancient stone carved with symbols we had seen near the entrance. Except here, the symbols were different, more detailed, etched deep into the walls with a precision no primitive tool could have achieved. "Cats, stop," I gasped, grabbing his arm. "Look at these." He turned, squinting despite the emergency lights fighting to stay alive. "These are not just inscriptions. They are diagrams, instructions." My fingertips traced a series of interconnected glyphs. These are not Iranian. This place was not built by humans. They found it. They uncovered something that was always here. Cat swallowed hard. "How old?" 5,000, maybe 6,000 years, I whispered. "Before recorded civilization, before Mesopotamia." I pointed to a star chart carved into the stone. "And this is not Earth's sky." We didn't have time to process the implications, because the creature's footsteps, multiple, heavy, coordinated, thundered through the corridors behind us. They were chasing blindly. They were hurting us, pushing us deeper. We sprinted through the ancient corridor until it opened into a towering vertical chamber, a shaft carved straight through the rock. In the center hung a platform suspended by thick, organic-looking cables that pulsed faintly, as if alive. The platform's surface was covered in cuneiform symbols, and at the center was a control panel made of stone fused seamlessly with unfamiliar technology. "Tell me you know how to work this," I said, as the cries drew nearer. Katz was already examining the panel. "It's powered by something I do not understand. Not electricity, not hydraulics, something else." His eyes widened. "Rosen, the shaft goes down another 300 meters, 7 more levels below us." "I don't care if it leads to hell," I hissed. "Get us up." He slammed his palm onto a glowing rune, and the platform jerked violently, then began to rise. Below us, the creatures poured into the shaft, staring up at us with those void black eyes. They didn't try to climb. They simply watched, knowingly, and as we ascended, the horror multiplied. Carved into the shaft walls were alcoves spaced every 10 meters, each holding another cylinder like the ones below. Hundreds, thousands. Every single one shattered from the inside, every single one empty. The rebirth protocol hadn't created these creatures, it had awakened them, and they were no longer sleeping. The sight of those endless, empty cylinders rising past us, layer after layer carved into the shaft like an ancient honeycomb of nightmares, left a coldness in my bones I could not shake, because the truth was suddenly undeniable. This was not a breach, not an accident, not a failure of containment. This was a hatching, a release that had already begun far earlier than anyone in Iran, Israel, or anywhere else had understood. When the platform finally groaned to a halt at the top of the shaft, the chamber above us was small, crudely cut compared to the lower levels, and illuminated only by the thin slivers of starlight leaking through a camouflaged hatch leading straight onto the desert surface. Freedom, only a few steps away. Katz exhaled shakily, starting toward the hatch, but a voice cut through the darkness. sharp and trembling. "Stop." A young Iranian soldier stood there, rifle raised, uniform standard Revolutionary Guard, not the modified biohazard insignias we had seen below. His hand shook violently, the muzzle of his weapon swaying in erratic circles as tears traced down his cheeks. "Do not move," he pleaded in Farsi. "Please, I do not want to shoot, but I cannot let you leave. No one can leave." His voice cracked under the strain of terror. "If the truth spreads, if the world learns what is down there," he swallowed hard. "My family is in Tehran. My sister just began university. If those things reach the cities," Kat slowly raised his empty hand. "Listen to me. We are intelligence officers, Israeli. We can help contain this. We have resources." "You do not understand," the soldier whispered, sobbing openly now. "It is already too late. The first ones escaped 6 days ago. They are already in the cities. Disappearances, attacks. The government is covering it up." He stepped closer, desperation radiating off him. "I have seen the footage. I know what they do." I softened my voice. "Then help us get this information out. Let us warn." But the universe did not grant him the chance to answer. Something dropped from the ceiling like a shadow given flesh. One of the creatures, moving with such impossible speed that the air seemed to warp around it. Its limbs wrapped around him, and his scream turned into a sickening wet gargle as he was torn open before our eyes. Katz and I surged forward, sprinting past the dying soldier and exploding through the hatch into the night air, the desert stretching out before us like a dark ocean. But behind us came the chorus of shrieks, multiple, overlapping, spreading outward in all directions as the creatures poured from the shaft. We ran toward the land cruiser, our boots tearing through sand and gravel as the night exploded with movement. I could hear them, light, impossibly fast strides, closing in, not too quickly, almost measured, as if they were enjoying the chase. They could outrun us easily, and the realization hit me hard. They were hurting us again, playing with us. The land cruiser finally appeared, a dark shape against a moonless horizon. Katz leaped inside, slamming the key into the ignition as I turned to cover him, weapon raised even though we both knew bullets were as effective as throwing stones at a storm. The engine roared to life. I dove into the passenger seat, and Katz punched the accelerator, sending us skidding across the desert floor, tires spitting sand behind us. In the rearview mirror, their silhouettes appeared, at least a dozen, running with fluid, predatory grace, but slowly falling behind as the vehicle picked up speed. We drove for nearly an hour in total silence, every bump and jolt a reminder that survival was borrowed time. Katz checked the mirrors again and again, paranoia etched into every line of his face. I reviewed the footage from my helmet camera, ensuring the files were intact, because what we had recorded was not merely intelligence, not merely evidence, it was a warning to the entire world. We reached the safe house well past midnight, a modest apartment tucked into a quiet village 20 kilometers outside Natanz. We entered through the back, moving with the instinctive caution of people who knew death could be waiting in any shadow. The moment we reached the apartment on the second floor, we initiated the secure satellite uplink, the terminal humming softly as it sought a connection to Tel Aviv. It would take 20 minutes to achieve full sync. 20 minutes that felt like 20 lifetimes. "We made it," Katz whispered, though his voice betrayed no confidence. He stood by the window, peering through the curtains at the empty street below. "We actually made it." "We got lucky," I said quietly, as I transferred the footage to multiple encrypted drives. Redundancy, always redundancy. That soldier bought us time. He knew he wasn't making it out. Katz's eyes darkened. "Did you see his face?" He knew he was dead the moment he saw us. He just wanted someone, anyone, to carry the warning out. The satellite terminal beeped softly. Connection established. The upload bar began to crawl forward, agonizingly slow. 5%, 10, 15. Then the lights went out. Not just in the apartment, the entire village went black, street lights dying in a ripple of darkness spreading house by house. Through the window, I saw shapes moving, slipping between buildings with liquid grace, too fast and too fluid to be human. "They followed us," I whispered, the truth sinking into my gut like a stone. "They tracked us somehow." Katz didn't waste a second. He grabbed his weapon, then shoved the pistol into my hand. The satellite uplink continued running off battery power, the upload crawling forward, 47%. When that upload hits 100%, Kat said quietly, his voice steady in the face of what he knew was coming. You take the drives and run. Do not wait for me. Do not look back. We are not splitting up, I snapped. That is not protocol. He grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to look at him. Protocol is dead. This is bigger than both of us. If we both die here and those drives are lost, then nobody will know until it is far too late. His next words were not a command. They were a plea. Promise me. The door exploded inward, and everything turned to hell. The door didn't just break, it disintegrated inward, shredded into splinters as something massive and impossibly fast burst through with the force of a wrecking ball. And before I could even raise my weapon, the creature stood fully inside the apartment, unfolding itself like a nightmare given bones and breath. It was taller than any human, creeping close to 3 meters when it straightened, its dark carapace gleaming beneath the flickering emergency light from the satellite rig. But what sent ice water through my veins was not its size, it was the way it watched us, with intelligence, calculation, something disturbingly aware simmering behind those glossy black eyes. Cats reacted first, firing controlled burst aimed at center mass, shots ringing off the creature's armored torso with the useless rattling impact of pebbles on steel. The creature barely flinched, more annoyed than hurt, then crossed the room in a blur faster than my eyes could track, and wrapped one elongated limb around Katz's throat, lifting him off the floor like he weighed nothing. I heard the sickening crack of bone. The upload hit 63%. I screamed, firing an entire magazine into its head, each round striking true, because at that range, any Mossad operative could shoot blindfolded and still land every shot. But the bullets only made the creature turn its gaze toward me with a chilling slowness, as though deciding how to kill me. It dropped Katz, who crumpled to the ground, groaning, alive but struggling to breathe. Then the creature moved toward me. I didn't think. I grabbed the satellite terminal, still uploading at 71%, and hurled myself backward through the window behind me. Glass exploded around my body as I crashed onto the metal fire escape, the impact jolting through my spine. Below, the village had erupted into pandemonium. Screams pierced the night. Families fled their homes carrying children in hastily packed bags, while creatures darted between buildings. They weren't slaughtering everyone. That was the part that twisted my stomach into knots. They were selective. A woman sprinted by with a child in her arms, and 2 creatures watched her pass without moving, while a man fumbling with his car door was dragged into the shadows almost instantly. The fire escape vibrated violently. One of the creatures was climbing toward me from below, scaling the metal like an insect. I looked up, another was descending from the roof. They were closing in. The upload reached 80%. I made a decision I will carry as a scar for the rest of my life. I ripped the encrypted drives from the terminal, shoved them into my jacket, and threw the terminal at the creature climbing from below. It caught the device with a single elongated hand and crushed it effortlessly, metal and circuitry collapsing like paper in its grip. But by then, I had already turned and leapt across a narrow alley to the roof of the adjacent building. Pain shot up my leg as my ankle twisted violently on landing. 93%. The upload had not completed. Tel Aviv would get most of the footage, but not all. Not the lower levels. Not the full extent of what we found. Not the evidence that could have changed the world overnight. I limped across the rooftops, each movement sending agony through my ankle, while the creatures followed at a measured distance. They could have reached me anytime. They were corralling me again, herding me, toward what I did not know. The answer came when I reached the final rooftop, overlooking the village's main road. Parked below were Iranian military vehicles, armored transports, trucks with mounted weapons, soldiers in formation. But these weren't the modified biohazard troops. These were regular army, young men with terrified eyes. And standing perfectly still between me and them were at least 20 creatures, silent, still, waiting. A spotlight snapped on, blinding me. A voice amplified through a megaphone called out in Farsi, not with threats, but with pleading desperation. Please, we know you are Mossad. We know you have evidence. Give us the drives, and we will let you live. We will help you leave the country. I did not answer, because the moment I handed over those drives, I was dead. And the truth would die with me. You do not understand, the voice continued, cracking under fear. If other nations find out what we discovered, they will want it too. China, Russia, your government, everyone will try to use this technology. If this spreads, the world will not survive the race that follows. A creature stepped forward, tilting its head toward me. Its voice, broken, halting, came out in rough English. The words twisted but unmistakable. Give memory device. We negotiate. My blood turned cold. You can speak, I whispered. You are not just animals. Ancient, it corrected, the word forming more clearly now. We slept. They woke us, changed us, mixed our blood with theirs. Now we understand. And in that horrifying moment, as its black eyes reflected the burning village below, I realized the truth. These creatures were not abominations of Iranian science. They were something far older, something awakened, something learning, and they were spreading. Now we remember, the creature said, and the words slithered through the night air with an eerie mixture of clarity and distortion, as if its tongue and mind were relearning how language worked after centuries of silence. I stared at it, horrified and transfixed, because up close I noticed details I had missed before. Beneath the hardened plates of carapace, beneath the twisted limbs and elongated joints, there were remnants of humanity still trapped inside. A tattoo partially visible on one deformed arm, a silver wedding ring fused unnaturally into the hardened flesh of one grotesque finger. These weren't just extraterrestrial beings. They were the volunteers, prisoners, soldiers, the test subjects who had undergone the rebirth protocol and become something caught halfway between who they were and what the ancient creatures originally had been. Remember what? I whispered. The creature lifted its head toward the sky, the stars reflecting in its dark eyes. Remember before, it rasped. Before transformation, before orders. It tapped its chest with one clawed hand. We were told, serve Iran, protect secrets. After change began, we remember more. Stars, home. My stomach dropped as the pieces finally fit. The ancient chamber wasn't built by humans. It wasn't even a facility. It was a ship, or a vault, crashed or buried thousands of years before the earliest recorded civilizations existed. The Iranians had dug where they should never have dug, awakening something that should have remained buried in myth and dust. The others, I asked, the ones who escaped into the cities, what are they doing? Breeding, the creature answered, with chilling simplicity. Spreading. Soon too many to stop. Soon all humanity. Change. Evolve. It hesitated, struggling with its words as if fighting something inside itself. Or serve. Behind me, footsteps scrapped against the rooftop. I turned and saw Katz climbing over the ledge, his face pale with blood loss, one arm hanging limp, throat bruised from where the creature had crushed it. But he was alive, barely, and in his remaining hand he clutched our last emergency flare gun. Rosen, he croaked, staggering to his feet. The drives, throw them, now. I didn't hesitate. I pulled the encrypted drives from my jacket and hurled them across the rooftop gap toward our abandoned Land Cruiser, where they clattered onto the hood. Katz raised the flare gun skyward and fired. A brilliant red bloom erupted across the night sky, our extraction signal, unmistakable to anyone watching Israeli satellite channels or covert monitors. Somewhere above us, far beyond the reach of Iranian intercept teams, an unmarked helicopter would register that flare and race toward our position. The creatures reacted instantly. The one speaking to me lunged, but Katz stepped between us, slamming into it with his uninjured shoulder, knocking both of them toward the roof's edge. They rolled violently, claws tearing into his flesh as he fought desperately to buy me seconds. Go, his screamed, voice shredding itself. Get the drives to Tel Aviv. Tell them it's not just Iran. Blood sprayed across the rooftop as the creature's claws found his throat again, muffling his words into a choking gurgle. I wanted to help him. God knows I wanted to drag him away from that thing ripping him apart, but he had given me the only thing that mattered, time. I turned and ran, sprinting across the rooftop and leaping over the gap, landing hard on the roof of a parked car below. Pain emanated through my injured ankle, nearly dropping me, but adrenaline shoved me forward. The Land Cruiser was 30 meters away. The creatures were converging, pouring from alleys, climbing walls, slipping through shadows. Iranian soldiers were shouting, some firing desperately, though I couldn't tell whether they were aimed. Iranian soldiers were shouting, "Tap, tap, tap." I reached them just as something cold and strong wrapped around my leg and yanked me backward. I hit the asphalt with a grunt, air knocked out of my lungs. When I looked up, a creature hovered over me, but this one was different, smaller, less transformed. And its eyes weren't fully black. There was brown there, human brown. It looked at me with an expression that resembled agony. "I am sorry," it whispered in perfect Farsi. "I was a scientist. I volunteered. I thought I was helping my country. I thought we were making Iran strong. I did not know." Tears welled in its distorted eyes, carving glowing trails down its face. "Run, please. Some of us still fight it, but we are losing." Every day we remember less. It released my leg, then turned to face the other creatures, positioning itself between them and me like a doomed guardian. "Run," it shouted, and I did. I sprinted toward the clearing, just as the extraction helicopter dropped from the sky like a descending god, its rotors whipping sand into a frenzied storm. The door gunners opened fire, not bullets, but specialized rounds, high-impact tungsten that actually run through the power plant, each man washed in sand. I scrambled aboard, clutching the drives like they were my last tether to sanity, and watched through the open door as the village below dissolved into chaos, soldiers retreating, civilians falling, and creatures scattering in all directions across the desert, an outbreak in motion. Cats never made it out, nor did the scientist who saved me. By dawn, the entire village had been sealed off, a chemical accident, according to official Iranian reports. But I knew better. Tel Aviv knew better. And now, years later, I see the same signs everywhere. Remote disappearances, archaeological sites abruptly quarantined, militaries circling ancient ruins across multiple continents. Governments know, they're searching, and they're finding. There has been whispering, soft, deniable, off-the-record talk about a secret international task force built from the shadows of competing governments, a coalition meant to contain what is spreading beneath the surface of our world. But anyone who has truly seen what I saw understands the truth. Containment is no longer possible, not when the infection has already threaded itself through cities, deserts, borders, and bloodlines. 3 months ago, as I walked through a crowded street in Jerusalem, I felt a presence before I saw it, a subtle shift in the air, the faint instinct that something was watching. Then I spotted him. At least, I think it was a him. He moved like a human, dressed like a human, shoulders wrapped in a casual jacket, steps steady and practiced. But when our eyes met, recognition flickered there, eyes just a shade too dark, pupils too wide, the faintest smile curling at the edges of his lips as he gave me a small nod before blending back into the crowd. They are here. Not just in Iran, not just in the ruins of that forgotten ship buried beneath the desert. They are walking our streets, sitting in our cafes, standing in our subways. Some cling to whatever remnants of humanity they still possess, like the scientist who sacrificed himself for me. Others have embraced a transformation entirely, becoming vessels for whatever ancient purpose their predecessors served long before human civilizations carved their first symbols into stone. Yet what haunts me most are not the creatures themselves, but the memory of that endless shaft filled with cracked cylinders, each one representing something that had already awakened, already fled, already integrated. I still dream about that descent, a vertical abyss carved deeper than human engineering should allow, thousands upon thousands of empty glass pods stretching into darkness, like the fossilized eggs of some long-buried species. Sometimes, in the quiet hours before dawn, I hear the faint echo of tapping on glass, as though something inside me remembers standing in one of those cylinders long before my birth. Because Katz was right in his final moments, this was never an isolated incident. The desert facility was just one crash site, one burial chamber among dozens, maybe hundreds, scattered across Earth like seeds waiting for the right conditions to sprout. Ancient ships beneath the dunes of the Middle East, subterranean vaults hidden under the ice in Siberia, ruins sealed beneath the jungles of South America, and every major government, every intelligence agency with the capability to excavate has begun digging. China's sudden obsession with the Taklamakan Desert is not about oil. Russia's surge of archaeological expeditions across remote Siberian tundra is not about historical research. Even the Americans have quietly sealed off certain native burial grounds and remote canyon systems that have been untouched for centuries. They are looking. And worse, they are finding. 2 years ago, Mossad discharged me. Officially, they called it medical retirement, psychological trauma from a classified mission that left me unstable, unreliable, unfit for duty. Unofficially, I had become a liability. I had seen too much, understood too much, and the people in charge feared that a mind holding such knowledge could not be controlled forever. They gave me a new identity, a quiet home in a coastal town, a stipend meant to keep me comfortable and silent. They hoped I would fade out like so many broken operatives before me, but I cannot fade, not when I see them moving among us. Not when every news report of a missing hiker, a vanished child, an isolated village suddenly sealed off under vague claims of contamination fits too perfectly with what I witnessed in that Iranian cavern. And the more I observe, the more I realize the creatures are not the true threat. Humanity is. Our governments are weaponizing them, dissecting them, reverse engineering ancient biotechnology with no understanding of the consequences. Instead of burying these sites forever, they are racing to unlock them. Instead of sealing these creatures away, they are trying to control them. The scientist who saved my life said he was fighting to stay human. I think about him often, about how long that internal battle could last. Days, weeks. The rebirth alteration seems gradual at first, but inevitable. Eventually, the human mind is overwritten, replaced by ancient instincts carried across light years, from stars we have never mapped. Lately, I wonder if something inside me is changing too. Sometimes I catch myself thinking in patterns that do not feel like my own. Glimpses of cities made of shifting geometry, skies with multiple moons, memories of a crash older than human civilization. Sometimes I wake in the dead of night, convinced that someone or something is calling to me from beneath the sand. I tell myself it is trauma, PTSD, the echo of horrors no human should have witnessed. But when I stare into the mirror in the early hours of morning, I swear my eyes look darker than they once did. The footage I smuggled out sits on a secured server, accessible only to a handful of intelligence officials across 3 nations. The drives I carried through fire and death are locked in a vault, requiring 3 separate keys to open. Iran destroyed the facility 2 weeks after my extraction, a supposed earthquake, but almost certainly an underground nuclear strike, meant to bury the evidence once more. But you cannot kill an idea. You cannot bomb knowledge into extinction, and you cannot stop a species already living in our cities, woven into our crowds, adapting faster than we can react. So I am telling you this story, not as a warning. It is far too late for warnings. I am telling you as a witness. Look around you tomorrow. Look at the people in your markets, your buses, your quiet suburban streets. Look carefully. Watch for movements that are just a shade too fluid. Eyes that reflect light strangely, a momentary pause, as if someone is remembering how to mimic being human. They are here, in Tehran, in Tel Aviv, in New York, in London, in Beijing, everywhere. Some resist the transformation, others welcome it. And the governments of the world? They are no longer fighting the spread, they're trying to harness it. I was a Mossad agent, sent into Iran to uncover a weapons program. Instead, I found evidence of humanity's next evolution, or its extinction. Whatever these creatures were before their crash, whatever purpose they served in their ancient civilization, that purpose is awakening again, using us as vessels. Humanity will not vanish. It will become something else, something that remembers both who we were and who came before us. The desert keeps its secrets, I said once, but some secrets refuse to stay buried, and this one is already awake. If you made it this far, remember, stories like this don't just end, they echo, and somewhere out there, another door is opening beneath another stretch of sand. If you want the next declassified report, if you want to see where this trail leads, then do not vanish into the dark. Stay with me, hit subscribe, drop a comment, and share this with someone who thinks they know what hides beneath the desert. This is Captain Rebel. Stay sharp, stay aware, and whatever you do, don't ignore the shadows.